Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Mindfuel, where we are making mental fitness accessible to endurance athletes so you can train your brain as consciously as you train your body. Today, we're diving into confidence, and we'll specifically be taking a look at how non athletic pursuits can help us build confidence in sport and how we can harness the power of what we're learning outside of our sport back into it. And joining us for this discussion today is Louise Whitting. Louise, welcome to Mindfuel.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Really excited to have you. And as always, before we dive into your story, we like to start by asking our guests to introduce themselves, not by telling us what it is that you do, but explaining who you are. So, how would a friend or family member or partner describe you?
Yeah, I absolutely hate this question, by the way. I
You are
really,
not the only guest to say that, but it is also intentional that we leave it in there because we're so used to tying our identity to the doing that we like to focus a bit on the being as humans.
totally fine. Okay. So I think my friends would describe me as very driven and determined. And so when I set my mind on something, I always do it. So that, I guess that makes me a little bit obsessive, a little bit stubborn, but hopefully they'll say some nice things about me as well. I always try and be kind of caring and friendly, but yeah, generally just like quite a driven type A personality, to my detriment sometimes, but I've been working a lot more on balance recently, which we're going to get into later. But yeah,
Yes.
generally
And
it's like,
I can imagine those are words we hear a lot around here. I think a lot of our audience and endurance athletes can relate to that. So thank you for sharing. And yeah, really looking forward to actually digging into that and seeing how you've been able to kind of transform using some of those skills to now really your benefit and using them in a really courageous way. On that note, can you start to tell us a little bit more about your relationship to sport?
yeah. So I was a cross country kid. So anyone who didn't grow up in the UK probably doesn't know what that means, but basically you were like thrown into a field where kind of like anyone between the age of like 8 years old, maybe like all the way until secondary school, you know, big race in a field, everyone run as fast as you can. And I just loved that feeling of, I mean, I wasn't very fit. I was a kid, but like really pushing yourself to the point where you feel a little bit sick at the end and then maybe winning something. And I always liked winning things. So,
Don't
yeah.
we all?
And then running was kind of used as a kind of form of escapism sometimes, a mental health thing. It was just always been this thing that's been a constant in my life through all the different phases of my life. But I think as you get older, I definitely struggled a lot with injuries, like not knowing how to train, under fueling. So I've always had a little bit of a complicated relationship with running. So when I got a bit older, a bit wiser, I thought, oh, maybe I should cross train a little bit. So did a bit of swimming here and there, like got a commuter bike. And yeah, the kind of natural thing at that point was to just give triathlon a go. And so I did my first in 2018 in Blenheim Palace. Great race. It's a sprint distance. I think it's a very beginner friendly race. Loved it. Didn't train that hard for it. Didn't do particularly well, like distinctly average, but it was just a great experience. And then, well, long story short, I did get hit by a car a few days after that race. I was out
Oh
for a run,
gosh.
which really derailed the triathlon journey for a couple of years. But yeah, after the pandemic, bounced back, got back on it, and then just got completely hooked. Thought I would try and take this a bit more seriously now. And yeah, it's just become my main sport for the past kind of 5 years now. It's given me a lot in my life. It's changed my lifestyle completely. Like triathlon is it's a lifestyle sport. It takes a lot to get good at. It's a lot of training, waking up early on the weekends, doing long rides, long runs, but you build a community around it. And yeah, I think it's made me a better person. I've learned a lot from the process, and I just love the sport.
Super. I can feel your passion. It's really nice to see that. And actually, so much of what you described is really analogous to some of my story. And I think that was part of the reason when fellow Mindfuel expert and athlete Jess Golding introduced us, I kind of felt this immediate, like, oh, yeah, I really want to speak more to Louise because so much of her story and what she's telling me and her self-awareness and resilience really resonated and was actually very inspiring to me. So very excited to dig into this a little bit more and we'll get into it, but you are also coaching now. And so you've been able to take what you've learned through life and sport, and you're now applying that to what others can take away from that, and your passion is inspiring them. So very, very cool. Yeah, so I guess on that note, we have talked, obviously about who you are, heard a little bit about how you've gotten into endurance sport throughout your life, but can you talk a little bit more now about your kind of professional personal interplay of how sport became part of your professional repertoire and what you're doing as a coach?
Yeah, I'll try and keep it brief because I feel like my life story is quite long and convoluted. So yeah, I think we're going to talk about confidence today a lot. So I think it's important to kind of like frame where I came from. So I was not a confident kid at all. I was very, very shy, very nerdy, very studious, didn't fit in socially, got bullied terribly throughout all of my secondary school. So I kind of left the school experience with excellent grades. And I think I got a lot of achievement out of achieving those. That was the kind of thing that has always driven me, but with not really a lot of confidence. So throughout my life, I've always been a perfectionist and I've always taken that, achievement mindset alongside my career as well. So I went from doing a business degree, working in consulting, doing a computer science master's as a bit of a career change, and then getting into product management, which again just accelerated kind of my learning, my confidence. It's lots of public speaking, it's leading teams without influence, it's delving into customers, it's doing strategy. Like intellectually, it was fantastic. But alongside this career, I also got into triathlon. So I was juggling kind of like a high flying tech startup career with being an age group triathlete and then trying to get on the podium at the World and Age-Group Championships. So it was like a crazy, like I would say like 2 to 3 years of just trying to go all in on those two areas of my life. And yeah, unsurprisingly, I had incredibly bad burnout for 2 of those years.
I mean, I feel tired just listening to that, and I've also experienced some similar things, so I get it. It's a lot.
Yeah. But I think there's something to be said about just seeing how good you can get at something when you go all in on something. So basically, had a really bad experience at a startup that just kind of changed how I felt about myself and my career. And I decided after that I would just take a bit of a break. So 2024, I actually didn't work at all. I was very fortunate, like worked hard enough where I could sustain myself. And I was like, I'm not going to worry about money. I'm just going to train like a triathlete. So I had my old coach, Colin Norris, and, we were training only, I would say like 15 hours a week, 15, 16 hours a week. I thought I would be able to train more, but turns out if you're not a professional athlete, you can't just jump into training like a professional athlete. Like you can't just do 20-hour
Bummer.
weeks. Oh yeah, sorry guys. It's your body can't take it. I would have been exhausted. But yeah, I trained really hard, managed to achieve my goal, which was to get a podium position in my age group at the champs. I like European champs, so I was second on the
Congrats.
podium. And the lady that beat me was like a French, like elite athlete. So I didn't even feel bad about coming second. Like in my mind, that was all I needed to prove. Went to the world champs, came fifth there, just like had the best time, raced loads. And then I think after that year, I came away thinking, okay, I've kind of like done that now, like I've proven I can do that. I also needed to earn some money to start a career. I just could have not faced going back to product management. It was soul destroying to me. I'd lived like an athlete for a year. My life was talking about sport. I retrained as a personal trainer. I did my British triathlon coaching qualifications. I did a nutrition course qualification. And it just became clear to me that this was my passion. And
Mm.
it always had been. I wanted to do sports and exercise science for university, but my mother shut that down quite quickly. So off I went to do business instead. And it was time. It was time. I just felt like full circle. So now I'm a triathlon coach as well as a personal trainer. I've got quite a few athletes now and I just absolutely love my job. I can't explain to you how rewarding it is. And yeah, we're going to talk on this later, but like helping people achieve things that they didn't think was
Mm.
possible and helping people become like the best athlete they can be is, yeah, it's just so rewarding. It's just so nice to be able to share all the knowledge and experience that I gained over competing, 2 or 3 years at quite a high level and still at a quite a high level. I'm going to do the world champs this year. So that's
Awesome.
exciting. But yeah, it's just fully my life now. And I'm just can never go back to how I was before.
The word that's coming through so much as I listen to this, and thank you for sharing. It's an incredible story. But courage is the thing that keeps coming up, that you really listen to yourself and you keep fighting through challenging situations to find what fulfills you. And that can be really hard. And so, congratulations. And thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of people can relate to either wanting to do that and liking hearing a success story, or having been there themselves and love hearing how someone else has also managed to do that. So I think one of the other words that you used a lot as we got to know each other before this session was resilience. And in my mind, that kind of translates into being able to tell myself and just keep reminding myself that I can do hard things. Like, life is hard. You've outlined work can be tough, training it can be hard, racing can be tough. So, how did you kind of build that muscle, and what does that end up sounding like in your head?
Yeah, I think, yeah, resilience is something yeah, as you said, like life's hard, right? Like I'm in my mid 30s. I don't know how old you are, but at this point in life, we've probably gone through quite a lot of like bad experiences, friends and family getting sick, people passing away, things happening at work, heartbreak, like everything. So when those kind of things happen, you're picking yourself off the ground, but eventually, you do get through the other side. And I do think that muscle, that same resilience muscle, it translates extremely well to racing. Like if you know that you've been in a much worse situation and you've got out of it, you can definitely get through that last 10K of the half marathon. you know what I mean? So yeah, it is a mental thing. How you speak to yourself in races makes such a big difference on how you perform. How you speak to yourself when you're going through a hard time in life makes a big difference on how well you're going to deal with the situation. When I was doing sprint triathlon, my mantra was go fast, have fun. So I would just write that on my hand here in little pen. Go fast, have fun. That to me is why I do it. Like I love going fast. The getting that lactic acid burn up, like lungs bursting. That's just my thing. That's my favorite distance. I love it. So that's always going to be there. But I think in triathlon, it's about breaking down the race. So it's the same thing in life. Like you just get through the next thing. You got to break that down. So the swim, everyone hates the swim. It's chaotic. Your heart's racing. You wait for the horn to go off. Everyone's flailing around in the water. You're probably going to get hit in the face. Like the first 2 or 3 times you do it in a triathlon, it's absolutely terrifying, but get through that. Right. T1, what am I doing in T1? Break down the order you're going to take things off and put things on. Boom, get through it. Right. I'm on the bike. Yeah, it's just a series of executing small steps. That's how I've always got through triathlon. Otherwise, it's just this huge thing, this goal. And if you're very new to it, it can feel very overwhelming. Like all these different things I've got to think about. Just, one thing at a time, write down how you're going to do it. And then in your mind, you can just tick it off as you do it. And it just gives you so much confidence, or it just like calms the nerves when you're in that situation, when you can just calmly execute a plan.
Preparation is key. We trust our training physically so much, but I think it is sometimes that mental blocking out of key things in the race that can take the nerves back down another notch as well. Did you come by that naturally, or was that something that your coach kind of spoke you through, or that you've learned as you've raced, maybe a combination of all of those?
Yeah, definitely a combination. My first sprint triathlon that I did while I had a coach, which was in the start of 2022, man swam over me in the swim. Completely unplanned for. Just it was a mass start, like mixed genders. And yeah, I just started hyperventilating, swallowed a lot of water. But you can't give up, right? You just got to keep going. So you just catch your breath, calm down. I think when I got through that moment and composed myself, got on the bike, I still managed to finish third in that race as a third female. So, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I didn't have the perfect race, but I still did really well. So not everything needs to go well anyway, and you can still have a good race. And I think that's when I realized how much can go wrong in triathlon. So you don't obsess about having the perfect race anyway. You're probably not. I've probably done between 25 and 30 triathlons in the past few years, and maybe like 3 of them have gone perfectly. You know what I mean? You'll get through it. Just know what's going to happen. Like, okay, if that happens, what am I going to do? Just have the plan B, like in your mind, so you can just execute that plan instead if something goes wrong.
That's really good advice. And I tend to think as well that most of us hold ourselves to quite a standard that even if on paper a coach said that was a darn near perfect race, we would be pretty good at nitpicking and saying, oh, it
Yeah.
wasn't quite perfect. So I'm pleased to hear that you even think, especially as someone who says they have perfectionistic tendencies, that you've even had up to 3 perfect races, because
Yeah.
that means you are being really kind to yourself and confident in your capabilities and knowing like where you are and what you're capable of.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, they went perfectly, but still, yeah, don't worry, I will nitpick, but we don't need to go
No,
into
let's stick with them. They were perfect. You kind of started to touch on this, but it
it.
sounds like kind of before, during, and after a race, or let's say even just a hard training session, something that's going to be quite challenging.
Mhm,
You're breaking that down and sort of thinking about those session or those parts of the session a little bit differently, and maybe speaking to yourself or coaching yourself through those differently. So can you talk more about how it sounds in your brain to get through these? And particularly for me, for example, I have terrible anticipation of hard workouts. With the race, I'm much more just like, well, it's here. I've done what I can. Let's go. In a session, I'm like, am I going to be able to hit this? What is it going to tell me? Is it going to tell me I'm not ready for race day? It's really tough. So, how do you personally address that? And then, are there ways that you work with your athletes on this?
yeah, so, I mean, before a race, yeah, I mean, it's all about calming I actually think that's the easiest part. It's just calming the noise and the nerves that are going on, focusing on the things we just talked about, those processes that you're gonna walk through and execute, and just reminding yourself, yeah, all the hard work. And hopefully, as you've touched on, like, the reason I give my athletes really hard sessions, like, in the 4 weeks up to a race, is so they arrive at that race start line and they're like, "Well, that bike session from 2 weeks ago, like, it doesn't get any worse than that. So, and I've done that, so I'm gonna be okay here." For me, I have the same thing. I sometimes write myself, because I self-coach now, and sometimes I write myself such horrible sessions. I'm like, "How the hell am I gonna do that?" But for me, I always bribe myself. I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna like bake a really nice loaf of banana bread, like have a bit of that before and treat myself to another coffee. And then I'm gonna be like raring to go. And then I'm gonna do it. And then I'm gonna go for a nice dinner with my friends. So it's gonna be over. So it's just give myself a little treat before and after. And then it always goes well. But then if you don't
Mm.
quite hit the pace, there are so many reasons probably why that didn't happen. If you slept a little bit badly, if like because I'm do a lot of personal training now and I cycle around London a lot. I'm always like on the move. I'm on my feet all day. So it's a lot harder for me to like get to the start of a session fresh.
Mm.
I just like take a little bit of that context in and a little bit of pressure off anyway. And it's just a best case scenario. Like if you execute a session and you tried your best and your heart rate got where it needed to be, it doesn't really matter what pace you did. I think this is the issue with technology, right? Like, and we've got all of our watches on and we're tracking all this data, and don't let it get in your head. Don't let things psych you out. And so yeah, calm yourself down. And then during, I actually think during is the most important for performance. Like once you're in it, how you talk to yourself during that race is 100% going to influence how you perform. So any kind of negative thought that starts coming in, you got to shut it down. You got to find an alternative positive thought. And I'll give you an example. So the bike has always been my weakest part of triathlon. I think it always will be. And I think it's because it's the sport I came into the latest in life.
Mm.
It's the sport that I don't enjoy training for. Like, I mean, it's fine. I like going on bike rides with my friends, but I don't enjoy long rides on my own. I don't enjoy really hard turbo sessions. They give me like the ick. Like, I get really bad anxiety before them. When I'm doing them, I hate it, honestly.
I'm
And
glad I'm not the only one. This is why I stopped competing in triathlon, was it this exact reason.
you're a runner, right?
Yes.
So I don't know why, for some reason, I love a hard run session. I cannot do it on the bike. So we're in a race and I'm a pretty good fast swimmer. So I know that I'll come off the swim in a good position and I'll get overtaken on the bike by people. And I've just come to terms with it. So when someone overtakes me on the bike, instead of, catastrophizing and being like, oh no, like X many people have overtaken me. Oh no, like she looks like she's a better runner. You can just like get spiral into this whole thing and just like, okay, see you on the run. Like I know I'm going to overtake you on the run. So I'll see you there. I'll see you there. I look forward to taking that person down later. And you just log that positive thought for later instead of spiraling. Again, you've got to like shut down that critical voice. It's very, very important to critically evaluate a race. My old triathlon coach Colin used to say, no decisions or anything within those 48 hours after a race.
Mhm.
Don't even like go into race analysis too much because there's just so many emotions still. It's like still very raw, good and bad. Like you gotta have a very level head and you've got to be rational when you do these things. So yeah, we have a tendency as high performing athletes to be very, very critical. So you got to write positives and negatives down. Positives first. Let's try and get lots of those before we jump into the negatives. And I think we all have a tendency to just go for the negative. And that's why a coach is so useful because a lot of the time I always do a race debrief with my athletes, no matter what race they did. And they'll start going off on how blah, 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 this didn't go right. I was disappointed, blah, blah, blah. And then by the end of the conversation, we've steered them towards actually how well it went and all the wins that we got from that race,
Mhm.
how that's going to inform the training plan going forward. So having someone as a sounding board and the voice of reason in that period is super, super important.
The great themes in there. And I think when we talk about confidence at Mindfuel, some of the key things that come up are positive self talk, which you've spoken a lot about. I think there's a level of self-compassion that's kind of intertwined with that, and your example of, let's be realistic about how I can even show up at this session, because as an amateur, we have lives that are quite demanding, and so we can't plan everything around sport most of the time. And the evidence piece, which I really like, is going back to, whether it's a hard session that's coming up. I know I can get through this. I've gotten through other hard sessions, or the race is coming up. I did that biking session. I know that that was worse than the race will be. I can do this. And I think those are such important takeaways to like emblazon in our brains, to come back to when that critical voice creeps in, because it's hard for it not to creep in. Another piece of confidence, I think, is really being like honest with ourselves about where we are. And you've mentioned to me that you feel pretty confident right now that maybe you want to step back from competitive sport and you would be okay with that. We've heard a lot about your journey now already, at how important sport is in your life, and I think how much it's given you to work toward. I imagine some of it has built your identity. And I think a lot of us struggle with knowing when we want to step back or that we're ready to, because it can become so intertwined in kind of who we are, or we might feel a bit lost without goals, or sport can sometimes give us the greatest sense of purpose, etc. So how did you reach this point in feeling confident to step back and knowing that you'll be just fine?
Yeah, I'm still racing this year a little bit, like 2 or 3 races, but it's like
The world champs. So yes, you're still racing.
it's not like my primary focus in life. I can't explain, like, how much for those 2 years, like, it was everything to me, and now
Mm,
it's really not at all, and, yeah, how do I get there? I think having a job that fulfills me has really, like, filled that gap for me. Having rebuilt or, like, strengthened the relationship with my friends outside of the sport as well, and, like, realizing how much they mean to me and just wanted
mhm.
to focus on different things in life. But at the end of the day, like, we're amateurs, like we're not professionals, so no one cares. That year I did really, really well. I was just like, I was really happy, but like no one cares. When you're at the pub with your mates, they don't care that you're the British champion and it's the Europeans
Yeah.
and got on the podium. Like no one really cares. I'm happy, but at the end of the day, you have to get to a point where your identity isn't the sport. What if you get injured and you can't do the sport anymore? You're gonna have a breakdown, right? And I think I've put so much of my identity into the sport, into my product management career. When that kind of got taken away from me, the career side, and then I just leaned on the sport. And then, well, I did kind of have like a little mini breakdown at the start of last year because then I was building a business. And as you know, probably when you're going freelance and you're building something from scratch, it's super, super hard. So now I'm trying to balance like this new identity as a coach, as a trainer in the East London sporting community. And it's just like it's a more balanced identity. There are
Mhm.
different parts of me, and there are different themes at different points of the year. Like I might be training for a race for a little bit, and I'm going to be a bit more of a triathlete this year. It might be race season. I've got loads of athletes doing races. I'm like, oh, I'm more of a coach now. It's just
Mhm.
I can just dip into different areas, or I want to take on more hours at work. Okay, I'm going to hustle. And it just feels I'm a lot happier, I'm a lot more balanced, and I know that no matter how I do it at the World Champs, like if I don't get on the podium, like, I'll be absolutely fine. You know what I mean? There's always another race. I can just pick and choose that part of my life. And I think coming into coaching as well, I coach athletes of all different levels, like people who have never done a triathlete before or people that want to make the age group seen. Performance means so many different things to so many people. Like a complete beginner who, couldn't even ride a bike a few months ago, competing their first triathlon, they're completely ecstatic. Like they don't, they might even come last. They don't care. They're like, I did this. This is
Yes.
amazing. And so the whole thing just needs context, right? So I think coming in, working with different levels of athletes as well has just really helped me just realize that it's about loving the process. It's
Yeah.
not about the outcome. And the process has given so much to my life. I'm very, very grateful for it. And it doesn't actually matter. It's lovely to have a goal, achieve it, but you know, that feeling after you do well after a race only lasts a few days and then you've got to go back to your life. So if you don't like your life, then something's seriously wrong.
Yeah, that's such good perspective. I don't know that I can add much more that'll be any more powerful, but one thing I was visualizing while you were saying this is like this pie, and that kind of comprises who we are, and the slices, what they are might not change, but the size of each one might within the same, size of overall pie, and we can flex that in
Yeah.
these different seasons. So it doesn't mean that we're losing that part of us. It just means, as you said, it might be weighted down a bit, or a bit of a smaller sense of our overall person, or at least time investment at different times. And you kind of started to come onto this, but as a coach, how do you instill all these lovely lessons in your athletes? And if you have them at these different levels, how do you kind of meet them where they are and help them with their confidence and balance and confidence in the sport?
Yeah. Yeah, I think confidence is such an interesting thing. I think you earn it over time, right? You become confident at something when you do it many, many times. I'm confident at triathlon now because I've done, over 25 of them. So like I know the drill. But yeah, someone who's never done it before, you just want to like practice doing the things, even if it's just one thing at a time at first, or just like doing an open water swim, practicing in the water, practicing your transitions at home. So just as we said, just like break down the big
Mhm.
goal into smaller micro goals. And then hopefully when they do well in those, they're like, oh, I'm not so bad at that as I thought. Like, oh, maybe it might go a bit better now. That kind of thing. I mean, it's same in all areas of life, right? Like I'm extremely confident teaching beginners how to do deadlifts now because I've done it dozens of times over the past year. So we've just got to build that muscle. It's just doing the same thing over and over. That's all triathlon really is. It's an endurance sport. A lot of the time it is just showing up every day and just slogging it out and then doing a big scary thing, reflecting on it, and then be signing up to it again. But if you turn up to a start line confident and you haven't done a triathlon before, it's probably just arrogance. Like that's not true confidence, right? Like true quiet confidence at a start line, that takes a lot of time to earn. So the way I approach it with athletes, like the more advanced athletes, obviously, it's something they need to kind of, I don't want to say rein in, but yeah, when you've got that quiet confidence, you've got to harness it properly. So you don't want to go in overconfident because
Mm.
you don't know who your competitors are. You don't know what's going to happen in the race. It's just something that helps calm the nerves. And again, we're just executing a plan. For the more beginner athletes, I can say all the right things, right? But they could still be really, really nervous and have a meltdown. So it's that debrief conversation at the end, I think, that gives them the confidence. It's the tools of self-reflection, self-awareness when they're doing the hard things. And yeah, that will eventually over time lead to more confidence. But yeah, it's a tricky thing. And then, yeah, how we talk to ourselves. Yeah, we've talked about all of this. When I know that it's worked is when they stop asking so many questions or like permission to do something. And they're like, oh, I think I'm going to try this. Or actually, I'm going to do something different today. Or like, oh, I think I might need a rest day instead of feeling like they have to push through all the time. And just, that's when they're more in tune with themselves. They're more confident with what they're doing. They know their bodies better. And that's what you want as a coach. Like you actually want to teach people to coach themselves eventually over the course of a couple of years. And well, that's exactly what my coach did for me as well. So that is the power of a good coach. Like you don't want them to be dependent on you. You want them to become confident, self-aware, smart
Yeah.
individuals.
Work yourself out of a job.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that is what you want to do. I find confidence, yeah, it's a tricky thing, isn't it? But yeah, it's
It
definitely
is. And everyone comes to sport or life or work, all those things are interrelated in many ways, but with a very different mindset. And so I can imagine one of the tricks as a coach is really figuring out what is going on up there. Some people are very self-aware and able to articulate that, and others a bit less so. So you have to look for other signals and start
Uh,
to figure out how to get in there and share this wisdom with them. So, Louise, if you could leave us with one final succinct thought on confidence, what would it be?
so I would say confidence isn't something you find, it's something you build. One thing you didn't think you could do at a time.
I love that. Not even going to respond. It's too
Yeah.
good. How can we find you if people want to continue the conversation with you?
I'm quite active on Instagram, so it's at Louise Whitting underscore PT. Post strength training tips there, my own triathlon journey, triathlon tips. My website, louisewhitting.com, if you want to know more about the coaching packages and personal training in East London.
I definitely recommend following Louise. I've gained some wisdom from doing so, and it will be a continuation, I think, of some of the learnings that we've had today. So we'll get all of those details posted both on our website and, of course, in the show notes here. And if any of this resonated with you, please do like the episode, subscribe to our channel on YouTube, follow us on Spotify. And as always, if you have any follow up comments or questions, you can put them directly on the episode or email us at connect@mindfuel.fit. Louise, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a really, really nice conversation. So much resonated. In case you couldn't tell, I kept interrupting, but very happy to have you. And to all of you, thanks for joining us. Hope to see you again soon. And in the meantime, happy and healthy training. Bye.